So we're on to 2025 general legislative session preparation, requests for statutory changes. That's where we're at. Okay. And policy advisor Elise Nui are you the point person here? Great. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yep. Deputy Superintendent of Policy, Nui. Okay, will you click on your microphone and then introduce yourself? And then Greg Cannell is online, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So Greg Cannell, policy analyst, should be on Zoom to answer questions as well. And I'm Elise Nui, Deputy Superintendent of Policy. Okay. Is Kelsey driving? No, you're okay. I just didn't want to. So if you could pull up just the sheet from the background, the legislative request volume 1 or version 1, not volume, that would be a lot. Okay, here we go. So we only have one legislative statutory request for you today from our staff, and that is to amend section 361215.3 to clarify the roles, responsibilities, processes, and timelines for responding to legislative audits. This has come from our audit team, and they are here to answer questions as we pull that up. So if that would be appropriate, I would invite them to come up and explain this ask.
Yeah, that would be great. And I talked to Debbie earlier. I was like, if I had to summarize this, and basically I'll give you a summary and then Debbie will really tell you what it means. To me, this says a clarity in when things are due back and forth between the different auditing entities, who responds, when things are cleared, when things are opened, and it's just creating a clarity and formality and timelines is what I understood in reading through it. But I confirmed with Debbie because they're more meticulous than me and my thought processes here. So we can, if you want to add anything to that or explain, that would be great. And maybe even explain why and how we got here, right? From a couple of bills last year. Okay. Do you want to?
She can go.
Do you want to go first? Okay, Board Member Vice Chair Hart, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I want to make clear that this was the Reports and Requirements Task Force. This wasn't necessarily in audit. It was reports and requirements. So
might be a different one.
Just to be clear. Oh, is it different?
It might be. I'm looking at Debbie and Elise. Sorry?
Okay.
This didn't come out of audit committee. This is.
Well, we got two things. One came out of the Reports and Requirements Task Force, and one relates to audit roles and responsibilities. Those are two separate things, right?
Oh, this is the roles and responsibilities. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes. This, let Debbie speak. You're right. I'm looking ahead to the Reports and Requirements number 1.
That's up next. Yeah, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that. You apparently owe us 10 minutes somewhere. Let's tack it on to the next board meeting, please.
There we go. Chief Audit Executive Debbie Davis. So this is pursuant to House Bill 244, which was passed during the last legislative session. This is very significant to the board because we are the subject of the most legislative audits. Right now, we're currently tracking 10 that are in process. And there is a significant amount of work that now has to be done because of this bill as we respond to audits and also as we provide updates to corrective action to audits. There are some things in the statutory language that are not clear or that just leave it kind of open to the discretion of legislative audit as to how things will work. Things that are prescribed for us are much more strict. And so this would just really clarify all the requirements that we have on our end, also help us understand better what the responsibilities of legislative audit would be as well. So really just clarifying and as was stated, just helping us understand those reporting requirements, which again are very significant for the board given the number of audits we are subject to.
Okay. And so I'm just going to read the motion for the board unless do you have a question? Oh, well, I'll let you move the motion then, and I'll second it then.
I would move that the board direct staff to work with legislators on potential amendments to code as proposed by CA Davis.
Okay, I'll second that. It's different than the actual motion is that different? Oh, okay, okay. It's different on my paper, so that's why.
That's fine, I can move that motion if that's, with that be
The number one there, is that, I just want to make sure we're reading the right. Yeah, there you go. Direct staff to work, okay.
So then I would move that the board direct staff to work with legislators on potential amendments to section 36-12-15.3 to clarify roles, responsibilities, processes, and timelines for responding to legislative audits.
Okay. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm looking around. Do we have, yeah, okay, go ahead. Board Member Carey?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Director Davis. I mean, I imagine there's a relationship between your audit committee and OLAG and these other institutions. Hopefully, most of the time it's very good. And I'm sure you could have just reached out and addressed these things informally. And I think it speaks very highly of you and your team that you would come here to receive this authorization when certainly it would have been much easier to do this informally. So thank you for that.
Okay, so the motion before the board is that, okay. Do you want me to wait a minute?
No, I was trying to make it easier on you, but I realized you know what you're doing.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board directs staff to work with legislators on potential amendments to amend section 36-12-15.3 to clarify roles, responsibilities, processes, and timelines for responding to legislative audits. Go ahead and vote. I'm going to call a few names. Board Member Klein
Yes.
is a yes. Vice Chair Hart
Yes.
is a yes. Who do we have Cindy on right now? Or Board
Hymas.
Member Davis? Board Member
Yes.
Hymas is a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Board Member Norton? Do we have Davis?
Yes.
Board Member Wood?
Yes.
Okay. That was a yes. And I don't think we have Board Member Davis on, so she voted yes. Is that correct, Board Member Klein? Okay, so
I voted yes.
that's unanimous with 14 in favor. We're missing Board Member Davis. So we're on to the next motion, right? Okay. Is someone reporting out on that? Are you reporting out, or is Chair Moss? Who's reporting on that?
Either way.
We had one other potential statutory change motion. This was brought to us from Board Member Davis, but she's not here right now, so I don't know. Oh, okay.
So Board Member Lear, do you want to make that motion then? Okay. I don't know where that's at, but
Say it's from sort of the consensus that seemed to come from our meeting with Representative Strong, specifically though from Member Davis, and I've added a piece that she then tacked on in a text at the end. So the board would be that the board and staff work with legislators too, and then there's three parts. And I think you have two of them, right, Elise? And the third would be consider extending the timeline to implement school fees changes, specifically consulting with USBE and LEAs regarding feasibility.
okay. Is there a second? Okay, there's a second by Board Member Booth. And let me read what it is, make sure we've got the language the way you want it.
I don't know, feasibility may not be exactly the right word, so if somebody can think of a better one in the meantime while we read these, great.
Okay, so what I'm reading is that the board directs staff to work with legislators to clarify core co-curricular, and extracurricular. Continue to allow fees and help the legislature understand the budget deficit created by removing the fees. And consider extending the timeline for implementing school fees legislation to Board Member Carey?
Just a question, which is, and this question I think was asked earlier by Board Member Davis, but this motion appears to be related to our work session.
Yes.
And I just want to know, in terms of procedure, is it appropriate, and I'm not saying it's not appropriate, but is it appropriate to make a motion from that session? Just because I've never been here when we've done it, so.
This is in, and just from what I know, this is independent, meaning it's already cited here. So the action anybody could bring a motion for legislation.
At this time?
Yeah, at
So
this time.
I withdraw
Okay, that's.
the question. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's why we couldn't make it then. It was informational. This is an action and legislation. Okay. Yep. So anyone could bring something forward. Board Member Straight, I don't know if you're next, but I see your light. Okay, Board Member Bogus, and then Straight will be after that. Okay.
So I believe I may amend this. I'm just wondering what the thoughts are about in number 2, not just helping them understand the budget deficit, but the loss of programs and the logical conclusion of keeping those programs.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, if you want to speak to that.
Thank you. I think Cindy was drafting this quickly, and I think that was the intent of what she was meaning in that number 2, the loss of the
So-
deficit in those more comprehensive ways.
So then I would move to amend it to say, in number 2, to continue to allow fees and help the legislature understand the budget deficit created by removing fees, the possible loss of programs, and the logical end of keeping programs, which would ultimately be a raise in the property tax, which would be passing those fees along to our neighbors. No, I don't want to say all that.
I think maybe
Could
just
we,
the
and I
first
wonder,
two,
could we maybe
Christina?
compromise and actually maybe say something like impact instead of listing out? So it might say, understand the impact created by removing fees? Or is that not broad enough for everybody?
Well, I think she intended, and I want to try and stick with her intent, but I think she wanted to explain what people would be losing. And that's what
I see.
meant
So
by
she
the
wants
deficit.
specifically with,
The deficit, the loss, kind of a thing.
The financial loss, the loss of programmings, and
Yeah,
then if
and then I would just, I think sticking with those two. I don't want to complicate what we're asking the legislature to consider.
And that's fine. I don't think that our legislature does understand that if our schools do not impose fees and they lose money and they want to keep programming, they will pass that tax along.
that addition
So-
work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read it out, and if there's anybody that disagrees with the amendment, let me know and we'll vote on it. So the addition would be, before it said budget deficit, and we added in there, and possible loss of programs. Is there anyone that,
I think,
okay, I'm not seeing anybody oppose that, so we're going to consider that an addition, unanimous addition, as an amendment, okay? Additional people speak, Brent, thank you, sorry, Board Member Straight.
Well, I'm going to say the obvious because it's been this way. In fact, we had business cases 3 years ago, 4 years ago. The issue is simple in that we all want to get rid of these fees, We see the negative impact of having the fees, but then how's it being funded? If it's funded by eliminating things that we want our children to be involved in, well, that's not what we want. And that's what we're trying to communicate here. But maybe there's a slight insinuation that perhaps we can't get this done this year. I think we need to get this done this year. We just need to solve the funding piece. And from my experience, working with Representative Strong previously, he very much is engaged in getting things right. He understands all of that. We're going to have a different version of that in a week. And then we're going to look at endorsing or not. Now, my encouragement is that we endorse. I think we need a communication, but I don't necessarily want to have a motion with something formal to present to the representative in regards to this. I think there's time. I think we communicate our concerns with Representative Strong so that he can have it worked, and then when we come back in January, when those who are here, then you can be in a position to, if needed, do something like this. But in the end, we want to support the bill. We just don't want to lose good programs for kids. And so I think we wait. I'm gonna vote no on this. I agree with every element of what's in the motion. I think it's accurate. I just don't think it does us any good at this point.
Okay, Board Member Lair? Oh, wait, sorry, we're not on, oh. Yes, you're in charge here. Okay, Board Member Lair?
I hear what you're saying, Brent, and I think your point's well taken. I think Cindy's desire, and I share it, was to memorialize our discussion today. But my thought, and I can't, this is where I can't speak for Cindy, is that that we provide this information to Elise and the other staff members who work more officially than all of us together do with the legislature, and then they would find the appropriate time and way to communicate this. So this is the communication with their expertise built in, not necessarily pushing him before he's ready or just finding the right time, but memorializing what we discussed and concluded today.
We need you on your mic if you're gonna.
That's what I'm suggesting. I think was intended, that it would be said at the right time and the right way by Elise and others to communicate our concerns about because he didn't even know the details of his bill. So
Right.
I don't want to jump over him, but I think Emily, I think, made this point to me that we kind of, it's a tricky place about when you communicate this, because if you wait too long, then it's easier for that to be solidified in people's minds. But if you act too soon, then you don't give them the chance to get their ideas on paper. So I would leave it to Elise and others to figure that out.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, and yes, so we understand the intent of this. That would be my only concern, is that communicate. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And maybe I'll just add, when I'm taking into this consideration, I'm looking at these three recommendations, which seem pretty broad and seem to be reflective of what we're hearing from the public and what we discussed today. So I don't think I think it still allows for that. Personally, I think it allows for the flexibility, but it also says, yes, we did speak, and these are the areas we're going. So that's kind of what I'm thinking as far as this goes. Okay, are there additional comments on this? Oh,
Maybe just a question. I guess
Yeah.
there's some, and I won't be here in January, but when we say clarify those terms, aren't there more than one way to clarify those, and lines that might be drawn this way or that? And I'm curious whether this leaves the board in control of their recommendations. if we certainly trust staff, but sometimes we say, well, we want the line drawn here. Would that keep the board the ability in January to say we want a particular kind of clarification, or does it sort of defer all that?
I'm, huh? I'm using the word Cindy used, so I'm trying to honor that. But I think that goes to what we just said, is that we understood, I think there was consensus that co-curricular needs to come back, and it needs to connect to those classes that are those classes that are part of extracurricular, and so it becomes co-curricular. So I think we are clear. I think our staff is clear. So I don't think we need. I think that, and they know what we want. We don't want co-curricular to go away. We don't want it to be defined only as extracurricular. So I think they're clear about that.
Okay. I did want to just share something. I just did get a text from Representative Strong just a minute ago he just said, thank you for letting him come. Last week when Cindy and others said we'd like this on here, I said, well, let's go right to the source, right? When I reached out to him, he's like, I'll see if I can arrange my schedule. He just is saying that he appreciated the engagement and that it's a meeting he won't forget for a long time, because he felt like he was brought in, right, to the conversation, and that we asked additional questions that he hadn't thought of, right, or that they hadn't thought of. So I'm just relaying that he's appreciative of that before we vote on it. It's not that it matters, but
I think it did. I'll just echo that. I talked to him in the hall, and,
Yeah.
and he was kind of surprised of the gratitude, to be honest. And so, it sometimes we don't know that the legislators enjoy this, and he was great to come in here. So I think it was a great opportunity, and I said, hey, tell all your friends on the Hill. we love this.
Nice of you, Jim, as that door hit you in the rear end.
Right? Bring them on in here. I won't be here, but they got a whole group ready to talk. So I thought it was a
Okay.
great example of talk.
okay, so the motion before the board is that the board directs.
Vice Chair Earl.
Oh, sorry. Who's this?
Oh, that's Cindy.
Cindy, go ahead. Board Member Davis.
No, this is Board Member Wood.
Oh,
I'm so
I
sorry.
just had my hand up for a while.
I mean, Board Member Wood. Go ahead.
Sound so
They
sweet and
do.
kind. They sound the same.
And unrushed.
Did you
Well,
have
Unlike
Oh.
me. Which
Yes. I have a concern with number 2 in the continue to allow fees, because I think that the bottom line is that the legislature is trying to work out a way. So I would actually like to strike continue to allow fees and help, and put communicate, or sorry, I'm on my phone. That work with legislators to understand the budget deficit and possible loss of programs. Because I think we're asking them to extend the timeline to implement this. Something's going to happen, and
So you're asking, if I'm understanding what you're saying, is removing the continued school fees, but wanting them to understand the relationship related to the fees. Am I?
yes,
Okay. And you're making that a formal request?
yes, please.
And I second that.
Okay. Is there any objection to that? So this is what it would read. It would say, help the legislature understand the budget deficit and possible loss of programs created by removing the fees. But we would be taking out continue to allow school fees. That part we would remove.
Why are we removing? Did they address why?
Yes. Board Member Wood, do you want to speak to that one more time about why taking out the continue school fees?
I think it feels like this random request of us that we already know this has been worked on for so many years, to just say, just keep doing it, just keep doing it. No, we have to find solutions. We find the solutions by clarifying the definitions, by better funding, there's lots of ways to do it, but to just this random ask, keep allowing it, that's not a solution, because we already know there's this issue that we have to solve.
Okay. Board Member Carey?
Thank you for that clarification. And that does help because I thought when it said continue to allow fees, it meant specifically for this period of uncertainty. And I think by removing it, it removes the uncertainty. So thank you.
Okay, a board member Lear.
Worth. I feel like our staff has the information they need to work with the legislature. So I would not want an option to be not to have fees because we can't afford it. But in the spirit of passing this on to our staff, I'm okay with that. And I hear Leanne's concerns and member Carey's concerns. So I don't think it's worth changing words and wrestling with words. But I want to say for the record that we have to continue to have fees until we have a money tree, or we'll lose programs.
Okay, Vice Chair Hart.
I agree with the amendment, and that makes it so that I can vote yes for it. Number 3, consider extending the timeline for implementing school fee changes. Does also support that because by extending the timeline, we're continuing to do. And there's no bill that eliminates school fees, and there's not even a recommendation to eliminate them altogether. There's just changes. So I don't think anybody's saying that we're doing away with fees. So to say continue to allow fees just adds confusion.
Okay, and I do think even on 2 itself, the end of that, that we're asking if you remove the fees, we got to understand the complexity of it. It speaks to the need there. So I actually agree with the removal too. But okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on this. The amendment is to take off continue to allow school fees and. So go ahead and vote. Board Member Klein.
Yes.
Board Member, Vice Chair Hart.
Yes.
Board Member Hymas.
Yes.
Board Member Norton.
Yes.
And Board Member Wood. Do we have Cindy Davis on?
Yes.
Okay, I think I'm missing one vote. Oh, is she online? Oh, okay. We have two board members that have other obligations right now. We had Board Member Rill and Board Member Davis who are not with us anymore. So that passed with 12 in favor, 1 opposed. Who's the opposition? Okay, Board Member Green is in opposition to that. Okay, the motion before the board, I'm not seeing, okay, would be that the board directs staff to work with legislators to clarify core, co-curricular, and extracurricular. That's 1. 2, help the legislature understand the budget deficit and possible loss of programs created by removing the fees. And 3, consider extending the timeline for implementing school fee. Do you want to go up a little bit? Oh, sorry, I'm looking down here. Sorry. School fee changes to consider feasibility. Sorry, I'm reading off the bottom. I apologize. As amended. Sorry, right, it is amended. I don't have to, right, okay. All right, go ahead and vote. Board Member Klein.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hart.
Yes.
Board Member Hymas.
Yes.
Board Member Norton.
Yes.
Board Member Wood.
Yes.
That passes unanimously, and we don't have Board Member Rill and Board Member Davis with us. So, okay, and I think we have, that completes that. Are there motions from the task force? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Chair.
Should I bring that, or I guess I should. Sure. All right. Chair Davis is she's chair of the task force, and I've been co-chairing, but reports and requirements. Task force met in advance of the next legislative session. revived and kind of updated a request that was made last year that was not put into effect, but it was an effort to seek the legislature's help in, number one, looking backward, figuring out all the programs that are out there on which the legislature is seeking input on compliance or performance. Do we know what they are? Do we know what's expected? Do we know how the data is being used? And I brought up in the task force that years ago, 2016-17, when we were starting this, what became ULEAD, we sort of looked at this initially. We had a kid who was an intern at UVU look at this, and he gave us a pretty good spreadsheet in a couple of weeks that had all these pilot programs. Well, that kid's now working at OLAG. He's been out and got a PhD, and so I kind of thought, you know what, maybe we can ask them to take a look at what's going on up there and help us in this process of making the reports and requirements process a little smarter, kind of figure out where the data is going backwards, and then going forward, if we might propose that they include information like that in their fiscal and perhaps a reporting note, because our LEAs keep telling us, as we on the task force have tried to dial back reports, they got 5 more each legislative session, and we're trying to be partners. Representative Pulsifer has been terrific on that, and trying to just kind of help get our hands around the number of reports that are being out there, but more importantly, for their interest at the legislature, can we help you to understand how is this being used? Is it being used? Where is it going? And that would help the LEAs feel better about filling it out and sending it. And in the meantime, we might streamline further. So those are the 2 recommendations from the task force, are that we propose to the legislature taking these items, taking these actions, one looking backward, one looking forward.
Okay, do you want to move these separate or
So
together?
I will move that
Okay.
the board, yeah, I can move them separate. Let me move the second one first because it contains more detail. The second one is I move, let's see, the Reports and Requirement Task Force moves that the board request that OLAG compile a report on the following questions. What is the cost for collecting the information? Who is looking at the reports and data, if anyone? And what is being done with the information, if anything? And can any reporting or data collection be reduced or gathered in any other way?
Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, there's a second. I think I heard Board Member Carey and Straight. They were fighting for that. Let me read it out, and then you can tell me if there's any questions to it. So the motion is from the task force, Reports and Requirement Task Force, that the board requests that OLAG compile a report on the following questions. What is the cost for collecting the information? Who is looking at the reports, data, if anyone? And what is being done with the information, if anything? And can any reporting or data collection be reduced or gathered in any other way? Any questions, comments on that? Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on that. Board Member Klein? Vice Chair Hart? Board Member Hymas?
Yes.
Board
Hopefully
Member,
you can hear me.
Yeah, we heard you, but that was a yes. Board Member Norton?
Yes.
Board Member Wood?
Yes.
I'm going to circle back because is Klein on still? Oh, Klein is not. Is Hart on? Vice Chair Hart?
I'm here. I'm
okay.
here.
We just
Sorry,
didn't hear
Hart.
you. Is that a yes? Okay.
Yeah, no, I stepped away. Thank you.
And that was a yes then?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So that's 12 in favor. We're missing 3 board members, so it does pass unanimously. Let's see, and then one more motion.
Okay, the second one, and let me just say thank you to Greg Cannell while he's on. We have amazing resources now that track the requirements and reports from the federal level, state legislative to USBE level, and it's been very helpful already in narrowing, streamlining, consolidating, trying to make it smarter, and so thank you to Greg for all of that. And if you ever want to see a master spreadsheet, ask Greg. It I think will serve us well for years to come in streamlining that burden that's put on the LEAs and making it smarter so that we have the data we need and not the burden that we don't want. So in that note, the second motion is that the board request that OLAG and USB staff work together to formulate standardized questions to ask the legislature regarding reporting requirements when they are creating a fiscal note for a bill. And those would largely be drawn from that first motion, the type of questions.
Okay, I need a second to that motion. Second from Board Member Carey. Any comments to that? Okay, the motion before the board, this comes from the Reports and Requirements Task Force legislative ask. The board requests that OLAG and USB staff work together to formulate standardized questions to ask the legislature regarding reporting requirements when they are creating a fiscal note for a bill. And we're ready for that. So those, Board Member Klein's not with us, right? Vice Chair Hart?
Yes.
That's a yes. And Board Member Hymas?
Yes.
Board Member Norton?
Yes.
That's a yes. Board Member Wood?
Yes.
That's a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We're missing Board Member Klein, Board Member Davis, and Board Member Rill. And anyways, that passes. So I don't have anything else. Are there other? Hold on. Is there any other? Well, actually, we do have one more item, but anything else under the legislative session that anybody has? Okay, we're going to move to the last item. This is the board requested legislative funding. Is there, who's taking that then? Is that, okay. Is that Deputy Superintendent General? Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead.
It's Nui, Deputy Superintendent of Policy. We, as of right now, do not have any requests for legislative funding. Sorry, I was communicating with Greg. Scott, do you have any others? No. Okay. Those were our only concerns.
Okay.
So no.
Okay. It looks like I'm seeking one final motion unless, let me clarify, make sure we didn't miss anything. Staff, is there anything from yesterday to make sure we covered everything? Okay. So I'm looking for a final motion. The motion before us is to adjourn. All those in favor?
My last second.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a good night.